Well, hey guys, I bet you're surprised to see me. Well, actually, I had not even planned on being here. But I guess by now you know that Carlee Russell has been charged for 2 misdemeanors. I'm not even going to comment on that because I don't know. I just feel like the punishment should have been a little bit more than that. But from what I understand, that is all they could charge her with based on the circumstances. So, you know, I think there's a fine. She'll probably end up getting some probation. Maybe they'll make her do some mandatory mental health stuff. And whatever it was that pushed her to do something like this, maybe some mental health stuff will help her handle things differently the next time. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. But you know, since I started following that story, YouTube recommended me a whole lot of different things that I normally don't watch. I mean, I learned, you know, I started watching channels that spilled the tea. You know, like I had no idea. Now I knew Robert De Niro was married to a black woman for a lot of years. What I didn't know is that he only dated black women most of his life. Although the wife he has now is, I believe she's Asian or something. But I think after the last marriage, his girlfriend kind of, you know, gave him a run for his money. So I guess he decided, oh, I'm done with black women. But I didn't know that. But, you know, like I said, YouTube started, you know, recommending all these different channels. And so all of a sudden I'm watching things I normally don't watch. And one of the things I came across was, one, there were a bunch of feminist channels. There, you know, which are, you know, modern women channels, a bunch of conservative channels. Everybody's, you know, a bunch of men telling women how to behave with men, a bunch of men telling women what men want. I mean, it was a lot. I haven't read some of that stuff since the old Kevin Samuels days. But one of the things I came across was B. Smiths. Now, I don't know, most of the people who watch me are in my age group. Maybe you remember B. Smith from back in the day. She was this beautiful black woman. I guess you could say she was the black version of Martha Stewart. She had a couple of restaurants. She did morning programs. I mean, she was the first black woman on Mademoiselle magazine. This woman was doing it, okay? She was doing it. And she got married to a man while he had a very highfalutin sounding job title. It really wasn't a lot of money. So, you know, him and her were married for 27 years. Basically, B. Smith was the breadwinner. Now, you know, while I'm watching these other channels, I also come across the debate about the 50-50 thing. Some people say it's okay to, you know, meet your man halfway and pay half the bills. Some people say, no, don't do that because you devalue yourself. Now, when I was married, I started out as a housewife, but then we ran into some financial trouble, and then I got a job to help out. And let's just say, I felt like I had 2 jobs, and I just felt like I had 2 jobs, and I didn't feel like it was fair. And I just felt like if I was going to have 2 jobs, then I should also have my freedom to be able to do whatever the heck I wanted to do. And you know what? It's not that I wanted to do anything, because I wasn't dating anybody else. I just felt like if I wanted to do laundry, I could do laundry. If I didn't want to do laundry, I could drop it off at a laundry service. If I wanted to clean the house, I could clean the house. But if I didn't want to clean the house, I could hire a cleaning service. These are all things I could not do when I was married because my husband just didn't believe in that. So, yeah. And then by the time I got to Leroy, Leroy and I were definitely 50-50. But it still wasn't really fair because I actually made more than Leroy. And so it wasn't until the last couple of years I looked back and I realized how unfair that was, because if I'm making more, I probably should have paid more. And I realize now what a struggle it was for him to come up with his half when he had less money. So it just seems to me like I've never really gotten relationships right. I saw the thing about Gabrielle Union, and she does 50-50, and the internet went mad. I know the reason why she said she would do 50-50. It's because one day her husband said, "My house that I paid for," and girlfriend said, "Oh, you will never say that to me again. From now on, we'll go half on everything." I get that. And when that happened, she had two choices. Leave his ass, because the moment you say to a woman, "My house," you realize it's going to be a problem. Or if you don't want to leave him, then you pay half the bills so he can't say it again. She didn't want to leave him because she loved him. So she made the choice to pay half the bills. The problem is she has a child now, and she's still trying to make movies, and she's taking care of her family who don't have the money she has. When I saw the interview, I had the impression the girlfriend tired. And her husband, what is he, NFL? I'm not a sports person. I just know your athlete. Dwayne Wade or something like that. In my opinion, if the man I was in love with saw the interview that she did, and it was me, I would be hoping, "Babe, please. I know I said I wanted to do half and half, but babe, I'm so tired. Please, can we not do this so I don't have to work so hard?" And if my feeling is, if he really loved her, he would just say, "Look, you know what? I was wrong when I said my house that I paid for. I'll never say that to you again, babe. I'm sorry. I know that's what brought all this on. I made you feel insecure. I made you worry. And I shouldn't have done that. And I know you're tired. So you know what? Back off the workload. Maybe do one movie a year. I'll cover everything. I love you and I don't want you distressed. I'll cover things and I'll never say anything to you like that again." That is what her husband should have said. What her husband said was, "Hey, if she want to do it, I'm going to let her do it." If I was Gabrielle, I would be real thinking the relationship, because it's obvious girlfriend is on the verge of burnout and he doesn't seem to care. So anyway, back to B. Smith. B. Smith was she was the money earner. She was the entrepreneur. She was the business owner. She was the brand. And so her husband, was kind of along for the ride, but he always had a smile on his face. But if you look at some of these pictures, boyfriend look a little bit, I don't want to say weak, but he don't have that confidence of a man flowing off of him. She, on the other hand, looks rock solid, but he looked a little wishy between the lines to me. Well, she had Alzheimer's. My dog's barking at me. She ended up with Alzheimer's. Now, before she could no longer take care of herself, they were going around and doing lots of interviews trying to bring up Alzheimer's awareness, especially in the African American community. But then time went on, she wasn't able to take care of herself. But this man dragged her here and dragged her there, looking like, I don't even know. Hair not done, or then he got all her hair chopped off. But then sometimes she had on a hat, she had on clothes that didn't fit. Remember what this woman looked like. And then he drags her around looking like this. And on top of that, he gets a girlfriend and moves the girlfriend into their home. Now, mind you, B is not bedridden. She is still up and moving around her house, and And I guess every once in a while she bump into this lady. And yeah, she's white. Not that race has anything to do with it, but still, she's probably running around her house and she bump into this lady and go, well, who's this? I mean, and who did her husband say it was? Did he say it was, oh, it's your nurse? Oh, it's a neighbor? Oh, it's my girlfriend because you know something wrong with you and I ain't got time for this. What did he tell her when she asked who this strange woman was in her house? And why? Why? And you know, it didn't even do it on the down low. He made this big production in the media that he had a right to be happy since his wife was no longer who she was, and he deserved some happiness too. And I thought, you trifling, narcissistic, weak-ass man. So you couldn't beat her when she was at her best. So now that she's defensive, you just do everything you can to destroy her memory, to destroy everything she built, and to embarrass her. And you know what? That resonated with me so much, you know, and to the point that I had to actually think about that 50-50 thing. Because, you know, not that it's going to happen, but I always said if I did get lucky enough to meet someone, I'd be perfectly willing to do 50-50. But then, you know, I'm looking at B. Smith, and, you know, she did the whole thing. That house they live in, you know, that house that she paid for that. She paid for everything. And look how this man treated her. And I'm thinking, if they had done 50-50, he probably would have treated her even worse. Because at that point, he just, you know, just trying to save some money. And I'm thinking, well, maybe people have a point about the 50-50. If a man doesn't care enough about you to cover you, then does he really care? You know, my job covers me. So I'm thinking, okay, what if I go 50-50 with somebody and I get sick? I mean, is he even going to want to fool with me? If the whole reason for him was to save some money and have half control, because in all honesty, the reason why I was willing to go 50-50 is so one, I could keep half the control and save some money, you know? But then I'm thinking, that means I don't trust him to do what a man does. And if I feel like in my heart I didn't trust him enough to do what a man does, and something happens to him, am I going to want to take care of him? I mean, because you have to be honest about this. If I can feel that way, who's to say he can't feel that way? And so I realized, first of all, the chances of me finding a man are 1 in a million. Okay, now they've just gone to 1 in 10 million, because now I realize if I end up with somebody, it has to be somebody who goes, you know what, Sheila? You're my woman. And as a man, it's my job to cover you. You know, it only costs $1,400 a month to cover me. Okay, I'm not that expensive. But I realized he would have to like me enough to cover me, and hopefully he would like me enough to take care of me when I got old and decrepit and sick. Because I ain't trying to go to my daughter's. I'll be sitting in front of a TV in a dirty pamper. Because, you know, she busy. So, yeah. I mean, just all the stuff I've seen in, you know, last week or so. And then seeing the thing about poor Miss B. Smith and how she was treated by a man who didn't respect her, who actually resented her and didn't appreciate anything that she did. Man. That's harsh. So, that's all I wanted to say. I really was hoping to keep this to like 10 minutes. I won't know until I turn the phone off, but I hope it was right around there. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, stay blessed, and thanks for joining me. Bye.